Hey guys, how you going? Welcome to another video. Now, if you're looking to lose weight, then you probably know that nutrition is really important, if not the most important factor in terms of fat loss. Now, the key is to create a sustainable calorie deficit. And I'm not going to go into too much detail in this video about what a calorie deficit is because I've got loads of different videos on there which I will put up on the screen for you to check out. But we're going to talk today more so about how we can make the entire process of eating in a calorie deficit a little bit easier. So as I always say, there is a lot of information out there about what you should be eating, when you should be eating, how you should be eating, specific diets that you should follow, how to calculate your calorie deficit, and the list goes on and on. The key thing I want to point out to begin with is just that you do not need to follow a specific diet. There is no certain foods that you have to cut out. There is no particular times that you should eat. And a calorie deficit looks completely different for everybody. Most of the diets that you'll hear about, such as the ketogenic diet or intermittent fasting, for example, in relation to fat loss, simply work by putting the person in a calorie deficit. So for some people, it can feel really good to reduce their carbohydrate intake, and for some people, it can feel amazing to reduce the eating window, such as in keto and intermittent fasting. But there is no right or wrong, and your diet, the best diet for you, is going to be the one that works the best for you. So the great news is you don't need to cut out any food groups. You don't need to cut out any specific foods either. I was still eating chocolate and bread when I was losing weight, and it's very much a part of my diet now. In fact, one of the main reasons why diets fail, for lack of a better word, is because people tend to over restrict or cut out things that they enjoy, and they just simply can't maintain it for a long period of time. And you're probably sick of me saying this now, but we always want to think about being able to maintain something for the long term. So making it sustainable, but also as enjoyable as possible along the way. But the whole point of this video, and that being said, there are choices that you can make or tools that you can use to make eating in a calorie deficit more sustainable, easier, and also more enjoyable as well. So to sum it up in one sentence, what we're talking about is optimizing what you're eating to make staying in a calorie deficit as sustainable and enjoyable as possible. And optimizing being the key word. Remember that fat loss is not about a quick and easy fix, but what you want to be doing is creating healthy habits and creating a healthy lifestyle to go along with it, and everything else will happen in time. Okay, let's get on with it. So point number one is eat satiating foods. Satiating foods will keep you fuller for longer, therefore reducing hunger, which often increases as you lose body fat. So I'm going to give you some examples of some of the most satiating foods in a moment and how you can also incorporate them into some of your meals. But if you were interested, you could always do a quick Google of the most satiating foods, or you could check out something called the Satiety Index. So this is a result of a study done in 1995 where they took 240 calorie portions of 38 different foods and then ranked them in their ability to satisfy hunger. So incorporating highly satiating foods into your meals and snacks is going to keep you fuller for longer in comparison to the same caloric amount of lower satiating foods. Of course, we're all about balance here and finding what works for you. So if you don't really struggle with hunger and eating in a calorie deficit, then it might not necessarily be a tool that's useful for you. But if you find that you're regularly hungry and regularly going over your calorie goal, then it could be really beneficial to add some of these in. So let's have a look at how we can make some quick and easy switches to make our foods a little bit more satiating. So for breakfast or a snack, you might usually have a bowl of cereal. But if you switch this out for some oatmeal and maybe added some fruit or even some nut butter, you'll find that this is much more satiating for a similar calorie value. As a snack or a dessert, maybe you'd have a bar of chocolate, but you could simply switch that out for popcorn, which is really actually quite highly satiating and very low in calories as well. So you can eat it a little bit longer, and also it will fill you up more too. We're also really lucky right now because there's so many different flavors of popcorn, so there's always going to be something to take your fancy. And let's say, for example, for lunch, you would have a cheese sandwich with a bit of salad. If you switched out the bread for a white jacket potato, which is really high on the satiety index, and then added some beans instead of the cheese, or you could still have the cheese and just add the beans on top, you'll find that that's much more satiating, and again, it's going to keep you fuller for longer. Of course, those examples are changing those meals quite significantly, but if it's as simple as you just get a little bit peckish and hungry and on a regular basis find that you're overeating, so just want to feel a little bit fuller, it can just simply be about incorporating some of those more satiating foods into your meals. Okay, moving on to point number two, and that is increasing protein intake. you might be starting to get a bit of an idea of what these tools are. Basically, we just want to make ourselves feel fuller for longer. So protein does that, as well as having loads of added benefits as well. Now, of course, incorporating more protein into your meals is going to look completely different for everybody. So I'm going to pop some links below to some references so you can have a look at high protein food sources in regards to your specific diet. That being said, I'm going to give you some examples of some foods that have really high protein content. So if you eat meat, you could always incorporate some more chicken, which is 30 grams of protein per 100 grams, or beef, which is 20 grams of protein per 100 grams. If you're a veggie, you can always add some corn in. There's loads of different options for corn. Now, a really good one for dairy is adding in some Greek yogurt, which has got 5 grams of protein per 100 grams. You could always hit up some tuna if you eat fish, which is 24 grams per 100 grams. I'm sure if you're British like me, you'll be a fan of baked beans, which have a whopping 8 grams of protein per half a can. And I always think it's worth mentioning chickpeas, which is 7 grams per 100 grams. Chickpeas are really good because you can roast them up and then add some different herbs and a little bit of garlic, and they taste amazing as a snack or added to a salad as well. So really, really useful food to have. And the last one I'm going to mention is protein enriched foods. Now, obviously you can already buy supplements such as protein powder or protein bars, but nowadays there are lots of normal products in the supermarkets which are protein enriched, such as yogurts or cookies or even cereal. It is always worth just double checking with those protein enriched foods that the protein content is reasonably high, because sometimes it's just really clever advertising and they can charge a little bit more. So I suppose that leads to the question, how much protein should you be incorporating, or what are you looking for in the nutritional label? Again, as you know, I'm a bit more about intuitive eating and finding what works for you, but there are government recommendations about how much protein you should be consuming, and that is around 0.8 to 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight. So if we take that lower number of 0.8 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight, and we take somebody who is 80 kilos, we simply multiply 80 by 0.8 and we get 64, which suggests that they should be at least eating 64 grams of protein every day. Now, I always believe it's not the best idea to be adding in loads of goals, targets, and numbers to think about. So I would suggest just trying to, at first at least, incorporate protein into each meal and snack and make a conscious effort to increase that protein intake. It'll help you in so many ways. After all, protein is the building block of your body, and you're going to need it to recover from your workouts, make sure you're living healthily and optimally, but also it's going to keep you fuller for longer as well. And the last one we're going to talk about today is eating in volume. And what we're talking about here is foods that are high in volume in comparison to their caloric value. This is one of my favorite ways to eat, and I still eat like this now because I'm a big portions kind of person. I like to feel full and I like to be able to enjoy my meals for a long period of time. Now, a good way to demonstrate this is to take some portions of some high calorie or calorie dense foods versus some lower calorie but more voluminous foods of the same caloric value. For example, on the left we have 100 calories of chocolate, and on the right we have 100 calories of melon and grapes. As you can see, the melon and grapes are going to fill your stomach a lot more and they're going to make you feel fuller for longer. Similarly, if we look at 100 calories of crisps versus 100 calories of popcorn, you're going to see which one's going to take longer, probably be a bit more enjoyable to eat, and also going to keep you fuller for longer as well. And finally, if you're a carb lover like me, you would probably have a snack like this. So bread with some jam on top, and I would literally eat it just like this. Or you might want to switch it for some rice crackers, which you could either add the jam to, or you could have some mashed banana with some salt and some cinnamon. You could even add some peanut butter, whatever takes your fancy really. But as you can see, there's a lot more volume compared to just the bread and the jam. In terms of high volume, low calorie foods, they tend to be a lot of fruits and vegetables. So if you're not a veggie or fruit fan, it's probably not going to be the best for you, but there's definitely heaps of options out there still. But for me personally, it works amazingly. As an example, for dinner, my boyfriend and I usually have chicken and wraps or chicken and pittas or something like that. And I mainly switch out most of the wraps and the pittas for salad. So I'll make a huge bowl of salad. I'll add in some roasted broccoli and garlic, a ton of mushrooms, lots of cucumber, tomato, onion, whatever I've really got lying around. And then I'll have the chicken, and I'll have maybe a little bit of bread on the side or a part of a wrap or something like that. But I'm just getting so much more volume. I can enjoy the meal, and of course I can add sauces and salsas as well. Not only do I find it more filling physically, but mentally I just enjoy the process of being able to eat that really big portion, knowing that it's still going to work out to be roughly the same caloric value and also keep me full. Alright guys, that is what I've got for you. I hope you've enjoyed that video and that you've learned something new or come up with a few different ideas to try out. The key thing I want to remind you of is that health and fitness looks completely different for everybody. So don't feel like you need to follow a specific diet, cut anything out, or that because something has worked for one person, it must work for you and then feel disappointed if it doesn't. So focus on you and what works for your lifestyle. There will be changes and adaptations. You will be learning all the way along. So don't be worried, just take it step by step, make small changes and work on that long-term health goal.